Hi everyone, welcome. FPL Matt Day here. This is the first FIFA World Cup 2022 podcast, not 2002. That's not a great start. World Cup 2022 podcast. Tonight I'm joined, it's myself at D10 Football, at Quentin, FPLAmateursAus, a couple of familiar faces. Can't wait for this one. Just before we start and I introduce them both, can you please like and follow and subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications if you haven't done already. Let's start off with Dan. I'm going to introduce D10 Football. Dan, how are you going, mate? And how are you feeling about this World Cup? Surely you're absolutely buzzing for it. I know you've been talking about this for a long time. So, yeah, how are you feeling?
Yeah, no, very good. And World Cup is always a World Cup. I've been to Qatar, the host nation, there in Doha, twice this year. Once in April and once in May. And the feeling there, especially when I went for the World Cup promo, was that it's very exciting. It's going to be a very different World Cup. It's hopefully going to be one that's full of magic and the stadiums, the transport, the ability to watch three games in one day. I don't think a World Cup has seen these things before. So yeah, I'm very, very excited. I'm excited to see how it all plans out.
No, good to hear. And Quentin, so you're a familiar face. You know, a lot of people know you in the come onto the podcast and watching in the comments at FPLAmateursAus. How are you feeling about this World Cup? Excited as well?
Yeah,
Still
no,
think
I'm
Australia might win
it. Yeah, definitely not. But I think we'll get a pass mark. I think, as we spoke before the thing, I think Australia is going to go in with no expectations, which is, I like it because we can kind of play our own football. Then we're not sort of going to have to try and impress people. We're just going to, do what we have to do. But yeah, no, I can't wait for the World Cup. It's my favorite time. Every time it's on, I literally watch most games. I go to work with very minimal sleep. But it's worth it. It's worth it in the end because I love watching football and, we see so many good games that we don't expect to be good games, and they're incredible games of football. So yeah, I can't wait.
No, good to hear. And obviously this is the first time I believe it's a World Cup in the European winter. So obviously you normally get the World Cup in the summer for Europe. This is the first World Cup that's going to be at this Christmas time, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. I think so.
Yeah, it is.
I think it had quite a good dynamic to the World Cup. It's something different, and who knows if it's a successful one, it could be something they do, in future World Cups. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like at this time of year. But look, I'm just going to do a quick rundown of the pod and what we're going to go through. So we're going to start off and we're going to go through final squads, any surprises in there. So myself, Dan, and Quentin will have a quick chat about that. Then we'll do some group reviews, our winners, our runners-up, the round one fixtures, then our 3 players to watch, our Golden Boot winner, and our tournament winner, and then we will wrap it up from there. So let's start off with, just before I go into the share screen, with the final squads. Was there anyone out there, Dan, that you thought was a really big surprise? In any of the 32 nations that qualified, was there a particular player, a particular squad that you looked at and you just thought, I'm not sure on that decision, or maybe this player should have got picked? Or so far has it all kind of been exactly how you expected?
No, there was a few really, and just off the top of my head, I'd have to say Spain not taking Sergio Ramos, Australia not taking Trent Sainsbury and probably Mitchell Langerak, Tom Rogic, and then I'd say also it's just skipped my mind. It's just my mind. England and Ivan Toney. I'm actually very surprised.
Yeah,
by
Ivan Toney. Yeah,
because I feel like he's been very impressive most of the season. Wilson, obviously, Callum Wilson, deserved being picked, but he did have that long injury stint. Even this season, I think he's been out for maybe 5 weeks or so. I know that because he was in my FPL. And Ivan Toney's, I think he answered really well, scoring the 2 goals against Man City on the weekend. So probably, yeah, that's the biggest shock for me. Really was Ivan Toney, Rogic, Langerak, Sainsbury, and then Sergio Ramos for Spain.
Now, interesting stuff. And I think with Toney, just from what I'd seen and heard, he did have some issues with the FA and some gambling charges that were apparently he was going to get himself into. I know he'd been investigated for gambling in the last couple of weeks, and they reckon that might have cost him his England place. Obviously, I know it's not necessarily, related to what he does on the pitch, but, I don't think the FA take too kindly to that. I'd had read that he was under investigation for some betting allegations with football and, and that type of thing. And obviously when you're signed as a pro, you're not allowed to gamble. So it's obviously a big shame if that was the case, because I think on form, you're right, he probably should have been in the squad. I think one for me, talking about Spain, David De Gea not making it, from the three keepers. There was David Raya from Brentford. You had Sanchez from Brighton in there. And then Kepa, who hasn't really been playing too much for Chelsea. I know he's got some games lately, but, I thought De Gea might have been in there for some experience. I also thought maybe Firmino for Brazil might have sort of had a chance of getting in there. I know they've got so many attackers and so many players. But he was probably someone I thought maybe could have got in there. But again, it's Brazil. There's so many good footballers there. But there were some of the ones that caught my eye. Quentin, was there anyone for you from any of the squads that you thought, you were surprised they weren't in there?
It might be a bit of a stretch, this one, but I think Garnacho, I would have liked to see him included in the Argentina squad, even though I think he only played the last few friendlies for him. But we've seen recently in the Premier League, he's looked really good. And I thought that would have been a nice play to take with them, and then sort of, I guess, give him a little bit of game time in the fixtures that, they can afford to rest players and, see what he's made of on the international level, because at the moment he's looking amazing. So I'm not sure whether you guys agree with that, whether that's a bit of a stretch to add him in the squad. But yeah, I thought that, he would have been a nice little addition in that squad with the extra numbers this year.
I don't think it's like it's not like an agree or a disagree, because obviously Garnacho has been showing like unbelievable form, and he has played for Argentina previously and also in the youth teams. But it's almost like with Brazil, they wanted to take Endrick from Palmeiras, and even Ronaldo, like Luis Ronaldo, came out and said, I think that, Tete should be taking Endrick. And he used himself as the example. Like in '94, I was able to go with the team. He goes, I ended up being a winner. Pele went before me. I think, and he spoke about Kaká in 2006. And then he said, in the tournaments where we haven't taken that young talent, he goes, it's surprising, but he goes, we haven't done as well. But if you look at the teams, and especially with Argentina, who would you take out in order to take Garnacho? Like, it's not that Garnacho doesn't deserve a place, but it's like, who am I going to take out? Because the others have World Cup experience. The others have Copa America experience. So it's such a difficult one. And this is what South America face constantly, Like if Garnacho was English, he's probably going. That's the truth.
Yeah, it's true. And I think as well with Garnacho, he's probably a bit of a wild card pick for Argentina. And I don't think they need to make that at the moment. Like Dan said, coming off the back of winning the Copa America, it's probably who do you take out? So, but yeah, look, obviously it would have been nice to see a talent like that in the World Cup for Argentina, but there is going to be plenty of more opportunities for him in the next 4 years. Before we go on to the next part of the pod,
I just might touch on the De Gea thing. Actually, as much as I'd like to see him there, actually, I think it's a good thing, because David Raya, in my opinion, should start in goals. And, we've all seen him this season. He's been really good. So I'm hoping he starts, because he deserves it.
Look, good to hear. I know he's your number one in your FPL team. He's my number one in my FPL team. But I was very surprised to see De Gea out of the squad with his form. But look, I can understand it as well. Ramos not there, De Gea not there. They obviously want to do, kind of evolve into this new era of players. So it makes sense in that regard. But look, let's move on to the next part of the pod. We're going to go through.
I'll just say real quick before we do move on, because otherwise it'll lose momentum. The reason I was smirking there is because Q's keeper picks, I'm not about them. I'm sorry, I'm not about them. That's it. We can move on now. We can move. That's all I was laughing for. I'm not about them.
So Dan doesn't rate Quentin's goalkeeper picks.
So here we go. All over social media.
There you go. So we'll quickly go on to the next part. We're going to go through the groups now. But before we do, as you can see on the screen there, the tournament starts. So this is in, we're all in Australia. Our time zone's in Australia. The tournament is in 5 days, 5 hours and 41 minutes. So not long to go. First game is Qatar. It's going to be huge. Can't wait for this one. Qatar versus Ecuador. Qatar's first ever appearance at a World Cup. So absolutely, massive there for Qatar. But look, let's start off. Let's go through the groups to begin with. I'm going to bring up these groups now. Let's get these up on the screen, and we're going to go through. We'll pick our winners from each group, who we think is going to qualify, who we think is going to come second. So let's go into it now with Group A. So Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands. Interesting group, this. I think from my opinion, looking at this, it's anyone's game for top spot and second spot. I think obviously you look at Netherlands, you think they're probably the standout historically in World Cups. They've always had a good, last 10 years haven't done so well. I know they made the final in 2010, but didn't qualify in 2018. I think they've made 3 finals and obviously runners up in all of them. So you'd probably look at it and think Netherlands are the strongest. Then you've got Senegal, who obviously been impressive in the last 20 years since the 2002 World Cup. You've got Ecuador, and then a new face in there in Qatar, but they are the hosts and they are the home side. So I think this has got, tricky group, banana skins in there. But I will back Netherlands to edge this one. And second, I think I'll go with Ecuador. So that's my predictions for the top 2. Dan, we'll go with you first. What are your thoughts on this group, and who do you think will come out as the winner and the second place?
Yeah, I was just having a look, and I at the South American qualifying, because I wanted to see where Ecuador came in the qualifiers, and they were 4th, and then Peru obviously 5th. Everyone know how obviously Peru ended their qualification campaign in the playoff there against the Socceroos. So we don't need to talk too much about that. But Ecuador, they qualified with 7 wins, and their next was Uruguay with 8. And then up from them was obviously Argentina and Brazil. Brazil with 14 wins. So there was quite a gap. I'm going to be a little bit different here and say a little bit left of center. And I'm going to say that it's going to be Senegal and Netherlands that go through. And I think Senegal will be the second place team. I think Netherlands, not they're going to cruise through the group, but this group does favor them. I think the draw has favored them this time. So I'm going to go, Netherlands and Senegal second.
No, big stuff. And obviously you've gone for Senegal. I've gone for Ecuador. So we'll see who ends up coming out on top on that one. Quentin, what are your thoughts on this group, and who do you think is going to win and come runners up?
Just a quick question. Is Mane fully fit for this World Cup, or is he under an injury cloud?
Dan's got an update, I think, on Mane, actually.
I believe he'll play. He's going with the team.
If he plays, I think Senegal will finish second behind Netherlands. But I think if he doesn't play, I think Ecuador's the pick, because Ecuador looked really good in qualifying as well. So I think it's going to be a tight race for that second spot. But I think Netherlands will probably be 3 from 3 and coast through in this group, in my opinion.
There you go. So Quentin is back in Netherlands to win the group as well, as am I, as is Dan. But as we all mentioned, it could be a tricky group there. And then Group B, we've got the team that I will be obviously supporting in the World Cup, England. And they've got Iran, USA, and Wales. So it's a very English-speaking group, with England's cousins of the US, and obviously Wales in there as well. Yeah, this could be a tricky group as well. I like the US. I actually like quite a few of their players. I think they're getting stronger as each World Cup comes along. Wales have been better down the years. Iran as well. They know the Middle East. They know these. They know this climate, this the conditions, and and that type of thing that we'll see in Qatar. But I do think England will win the group. I'd be very surprised if they didn't win this group. In saying that, they've never beat USA at a World Cup. It's now been 2 FIFA World Cups. They've played the US and they haven't won either game. One they lost, one they drew in 2010 in South Africa. But I will back England to win the group. I think they will beat Iran. I think they may draw against the US, but I think they'll come up in trumps against Wales. England-Wales always tends to be a game that England edge. So I'm going to back England to finish out on top, and I'm then going to go with the US to finish second. I think they'll be too strong for Wales, too strong for Iran, and I'm going to back the Americans to come out in second place. I really like a lot of their players. They got players playing in some of the top European leagues, some top teams in Germany, in the Bundesliga as well. So I think England and US for me, and it'll be England in first, US in second. Daniel, D10 Football, what are your thoughts, mate? What do you think is going to happen between these sides?
England first. Loads of it's coming home chat for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And second, I'm going Wales. I think Wales are going to put it together. Gareth Bale always has an outstanding international tournament. Anytime
First World Cup as well.
That's right, first World Cup, which is amazing because I don't think like Giggs, Rush. It's Wales' first World Cup ever, isn't it? So you think of the great players they've had, they've never played at a World Cup. So it's a momentous occasion, really. And he's just coming off the back of, I think, pretty sure he was part of that sixth or fifth Champions League for him with Real Madrid. Then he went to LAFC and he's won there as well recently, the MLS Cup. So he's coming with good vibes. He doesn't have the problem of people telling him he can't play golf anymore. I think him. I'm not too sure who's in the Wales squad, but I think Aaron Ramsey, Nico Williams, the players you spoke about previously, Danny Ward, who's been in great form for Leicester, by the way. I think these players are ready and they're going to get out of the group in their first World Cup.
Wow. Big call there from Dan. He is back in the Welsh. So he's going with the two teams from the United Kingdom to be in the top two. And as he mentioned, Gareth Bale loves his golf. And I've heard the courses in Qatar are world class. Gareth Bale is in good hands in Group B and in Qatar for the World Cup. Q, what are your thoughts on Group B and how do you see this one finishing?
I think England will top this group. And for me, I think this is the group of death for the second place. And I think it's going to be very tight. I think Iran's defense is really good. They're going to keep games quite tight this World Cup. I think Wales is going to be the pick for me for second place. As Dan alluded to, they have some really good players. One player in particular that I'm looking at is Harry Wilson. He's come back to full fitness for Fulham. He's looked really good, and I'm so excited to watch him play at this Cup. And Brennan Johnson as well up top for Wales. I think that they've got a few quality players, so I think they're going to go through to the round of 16.
Is Daniel James going?
Yeah, Daniel James, Brendan Johnson, Harry Wilson, Nico Williams. So they've got some quality. In my opinion, they've got some quality, and I think that they will, with Gareth Bale leading from the front, I think that they're going to make it to the knockouts.
Big call. So we've got a couple of Wales fans there. Obviously, I've still gone with the Americans. I've gone with the US. I want to add though with Wales, and what I will say is in the last, I think it's 10 years, they've really improved. I think a lot of their technical side, they've had the likes of Henry in their coaching team. I'm not sure if he still is for this World Cup, but he's been involved in their coaching side down the years. I know they've had, some changes in their coaching department. In there, is he still there, Dan? Do you know if Henry's still part of the Wales? Yeah,
I think he's part of
Belgium. Belgium, sorry. I think Henry did his coaching in Wales, his badges in Wales. Funnily enough, and then he ended up going to Belgium, and he's with Roberto Martinez. So, but yeah, I've heard plenty of good things about the way the coaching's been going in Wales. I'm not backing them. No, I'm still going to back America to finish second. But let's go Group C, and I won't say. We're not going to say who our winners are, by the way, in this. We're going to go through our winners of the tournament at the end. But I think as we go through these groups, there's a couple of countries I see that I think, I know Quentin and Dan have got their eyes on potentially winning this trophy, and myself. So I'm not going to mention who we think is going to win the tournament just yet. But Group C is another really interesting group because you've got Mexico in there. Always seem to make it to I think it's the quarterfinals has been the furthest they've gone, and they always seem to just lose at that point. They offer so much, and then they always just lose at that same hurdle. You've got Argentina in there. They've won it a couple of times. They lost the final as well in, I think it was 1990 and 2014. And it's obviously going to be Lionel Messi's last World Cup, we'd expect. And then you've got Saudi Arabia in there, another, I guess, local side that, Middle Eastern side that will know, the conditions of Qatar, and then Poland with Lewandowski. So I'm going to back Argentina to win this group. I think they'll be too strong. They'll come out and win it. And then I'm going to back Mexico in second. I feel like they always find a way to get out of the group. So for me, Argentina 1, Mexico 2. Really looking forward to seeing Messi in what I think is going to be his last World Cup. Lots of other good players in there as well. Martinez, De Paul, Christian Romero. So I'm going to really excited to see this Argentina side. Dan, I'll hand it to you. Who's your winner of this group, and who do you think is going to come second?
I'm exactly the same, Argentina and Mexico, only because I think Poland, they always look really good. They qualify well. They have excellent players playing in the Bundesliga, playing in La Liga, playing in the Premier League, and they just, I don't know what it is. They just never put it together in the final stage of the tournaments, which is a shame because it would be really nice to see them there. But I just think it's going to be Argentina first, Mexico second.
No, good stuff. So we both think the same for Group C, but does Quentin think the same? What does Quentin think on this one? Is he feeling a bit more Poland in second?
Yeah, that is correct, mate. I'm going to go Argentina win the group. I think Poland in second. A couple of players in great form at the moment, Zielinski and Lewandowski. I think those two, the quality that they've shown this season for their clubs, I think that mixed in with some other good talent for their side, I think they can finish second in this group. But I think it's going to be tight. I think Saudi Arabia are going to surprise a few people at this World Cup. Very great defensively. They know how to sort of park the bus and make it hard for teams. So I think that they could cause maybe a shock upset. I could see them maybe stealing points from Mexico or, even making it hard for Argentina. So I think it's going to be tight, but I think Poland's going to just get second place.
Big call there from Q. He's back in Poland to get the second place, but he also thinks the same as me and Dan with Argentina to win this group. Let's go to Group D. Obviously, we are all in Melbourne, Australia. Oh, sorry, Quentin's in New South Wales. We're all in Australia anyway, so we've got our eyes on this group. We've got France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. For me, I still think France will come out and win this group. They won the World Cup in 2018. I know they've got some injuries. I know they've had some problems, but I still think they will get over the line and win this group. I'm going to back Denmark in second, semi-finalists in Euro 2020, 2021. Obviously, it was when they played the tournament. Did recently beat France in the Nations League 2-0, but I think they'll go through. It could be either way for first and second, but I will back the French just to edge it. I just think they'll have too much quality in their squad. And then we've got Australia and Tunisia. Tunisia will actually have a lot of French-born players that could have been selected for France. They tend to get a lot of the overflow from the French national team. So I think they'll be a fairly good side. And then we've got the Socceroos as well, which I think Q can go through a lot more than with Dan about their strengths and how they might go in this tournament. For me, I'm not sure who's going to do better between sort of Tunisia and Australia. But I do think they'll both be playing for that sort of third place because I can see France and Denmark taking the top two. But hopefully I'm wrong. It'll be nice to see Australia progress out of this group, and win a couple of games. But Dan, what do you think in Group D?
Two different endings to this group. One is with my heart and the second is with my head. So I'll go with my heart first. And because I was looking at this French side, especially when they're like Pogba's out, Kante is out. And I thought, you know what, there might be a chance. And then you look at the depth and it's just unbelievable. The amount of holding mids they have, the amount of centre backs that can play holding mid, left back, right back, and then obviously they've got their forwards. We don't even have to talk about, you got Benzema, Ballon d'Or, and Mbappe, who's in really good form as well. I think Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe are scoring the most and creating the most chances, goals, assists currently in domestic football. So, you don't need to talk about France too much. So, but if I go with my heart, I think France first, Australia second. They scrape through, but it's one of those groups where it's like France with 9 points and then 4-4-4, and Australia somehow have just, they're just there.
That'll be unbelievable. That'll be unbelievable. The buzz
like
here in Australia will be amazing if that happened.
And that's also why I think I say that with my heart, because I think this is a very important World Cup. It's important that we qualify as a nation, and even for our football here in Australia, the football culture. I do a lot of coaching as well. Those people that follow me on social media would understand I have a lot to do with the community here. In terms of junior participation, having heroes, seeing a pathway, having somewhere that you can look at and go, wow, like I'd love to do that one day, is super, super important. I grew up without having the Socceroos qualify. So my heroes were elsewhere. And then in 2006, we qualified, and I was already 18. I was already 19 years old. So I think having that there, and that's why I say with my heart, I hope that happens. France, Australia, Denmark, Tunisia, exactly as it's placed on the card there. However, if I go with my mind, with my brain, I would say it's we are, the give it 100. We are the underdog. So I would not be surprised if I see France, Denmark, Tunisia, or Australia, and the other way around. But I would say with my heart, France and Australia go through. With my head, France and Denmark go through.
Good stuff, and a really good summary. And I've got
Best
to
way
agree
to
with.
describe it, man. Best way to sit on the fence.
Yeah, no, I love how you've gone with your heart there, and and then obviously you've reverted back to your head, and you make some good points. Obviously, it'd be great here in Australia if Australia can just get through, get to the knockouts, create some genuine heroes, for the young stars of tomorrow and the next generation. But Quentin, I actually felt like I was listening to you a little bit there when Dan was talking, so I know how confident you are about this Socceroos team in this World Cup.
On this podcast, mate. It gets confusing.
I want to hear your thoughts, mate. So come on, let's go. We want to hear your head, completely your head in this one. Who's winning this group? And can Australia finish second? Can they do this? Can they do it?
In my opinion, I think France will probably win this group. As Dan said, I was a little bit optimistic when I saw the injuries, and I had a look at their squad that they've sent through, and it's just like it's like the Terminator. You kill one and another one pops up. It's just like it's ridiculous.
Respawn.
I think France will win this group. I think it's going to be quite tight. I'm picking Denmark with 2 draws, 1 win in this group, so I think they're going to qualify second. But I think it's gonna be a game against us, and depending on the result for us in the France game, where I'm glad we're playing France first, because if there's any weaknesses in our side, which there are, France are going to find every single one of them. So we'll be able to try fix those issues for the second game against Denmark. So I think I'd rather play France first, because I think, in my opinion, we match up a little bit better against Denmark. Just I feel their players aren't sort of at the level of what France's good top players are. So I'm kind of, which is no disrespect to Denmark, but I think we match up better against them. And as Dan said, it's massive for our football country. I think even if we just compete in all 3 games, I think that's enough to help, our country. And, I'm excited this year because it's the first World Cup that my eldest son, Luke, is going to be able to watch. So I get home from work for the French game, and we're going to sit on the lounge and watch it. And, I've been talking to him about it, and he's pumped. So, it's going to be special for me and my household, sitting on the lounge, watching against France. We could get done, 4-0, 5-0. But, I've always said to him, when we watch international football, this is the best football. This is the best. So, it's going to be enjoyable to sit on the couch and watch it with him. But, I think Australia, depending on how they go in that first game, I think it's going to come down to goal difference. If I'm being honest, then I think depending on how the first game goes is, what our outcome will be for this group. If we get smashed 5-0, we're not qualifying. But if we can keep it tight against France and then get a result against Denmark, I think we can beat Tunisia. So, yeah, for me, I'm optimistic, but also I think Denmark and France probably, the 2 best sides in this group.
Good summary there, Q, and obviously love the story with yourself and your son for his first World Cup that you can watch with. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I do remember in the 2018 World Cup, France did play Australia, didn't they, in the first game? It was a very tight game. Australia were unlucky not to get something out of it. Did they play Denmark in that World Cup as well?
Yes.
Yeah, they did. We got the draw, and Arzani and Lecky both missed sitters, which should have went in.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. So, look, some familiar teams, some familiar matchups. Really excited about Group D, and fingers crossed Australia can get through to the knockout rounds. We'll see what happens there. Let's go to Group E. Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. This is a group I'm excited about. I always like Spain. I like watching Spain play. I like their football. I like a lot of their players. So for me, Spain are going to finish first. I really like Luis Enrique as well. one of my favorite coaches. So for me, Spain will finish first. I know we mentioned no Ramos, no David De Gea, but I think, you know, they're ready to move on with this new generation. They've got the likes of Pedri in there, who's a really, really exciting talent. You know, he could come out potentially with, you know, was it the golden ball of the tournament? You know, that's how good this guy is. We saw how good he was in the Euros last year. And Spain were unlucky not to get to the final. I think it was a extra time goal against Italy that cost them. And they actually played probably some of the best football in that tournament. They were very unlucky not to win it and go all the way. Look, they don't have the Torres, David Villa that, you know, we'd seen in 2008 Euros, 2010 World Cup, 2012 Euros. But there's still a lot of good players in there. I'm back in Spain in first. We've also got Germany in this group. Germany have made the most World Cup finals in history. If they win this World Cup, they will match Brazil with 5 World Cup wins. I'm actually not backing Germany to qualify out of this group, though. This is one of the first times I'm probably ever going to suggest that Germany will not qualify in a group. And it's very rare I do this, as the Germans are always very reliable, efficient. You know, and they obviously won the World Cup in 2014, which is obviously very recent. But I'm going to back Japan to come in second. And I've put Germany as my team in this tournament that I think might underachieve. And the reason being, it is, you know, there's no Joachim Low. You know, he was the one that mastered them, you know, to the World Cup victory in 2014. I just get this feeling, I'm not sure. Obviously, you know, you should never write the Germans off. They always find a way to make the final or the semis or the quarterfinals. But look, I need to throw one curveball in there. And it's going to be Spain and Japan in 1 and 2. So that's just one of my bold predictions. Could be completely wrong, and Germany could end up going all the way. But Dan, what are your thoughts? You think Germany will get out of this group? Are you backing them to win the group? Or are you thinking Spain, Costa Rica, or Japan?
For me, this is one of the groups of death, and being for that Spain, Germany, and Japan are I feel they could finish first, or they could finish second or third. Either of these teams. Spain, as you said, I was going to highlight as well that they had a fantastic Euro. They also had a fantastic Olympics, losing to Brazil in the final in the Olympics, and then losing the semi-finals to eventual winners Italy. Pedri playing like 1,000 games in 2 months. It was unbelievable. So I think, yeah, Spain, I love Luis Enrique as well. Obviously, work he did with Barcelona, the style he plays. I love watching Spain play, love Spanish football. I think Spain get out of the group. I think following them, though, is Germany. I believe it's going to be Germany. Saying that, Japan, unbelievable qualification. Unbelievable qualification in Asia. I think they went through. They actually beat Australia twice. I'm pretty sure it was 2-0 here in Australia as well. And Minamino looked like Neymar, Salah, Sadio Mane. He looked like one of those players for Japan, you know, which I think is really exciting as well. He could be possibly one of those breakout players that we're going to talk about later. So yeah, I would say Spain, then Germany. Unfortunate for Japan, but again, it could be either of those 3 teams, and I think Costa Rica finished last, unfortunately.
Good stuff there, Dan. And yeah, look, I'm very excited to see Spain play as well. Q, let's get your predictions on this one, mate. Are you feeling Spain, Germany, or are you feeling someone a bit different? Maybe Costa Rica. We haven't spoke much about them.
Mate, I'm going to say stop the presses, mate. Japan are going to finish on top in this group, in my opinion. I've got Japan finishing top. I've got Spain finishing second. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's going to be one of those groups where it's going to come down to goal difference. So I think Japan, Germany, and Spain are all going to be on similar points, but I think it's going to come down to goal difference. So I think I've seen enough quality in that Japanese lineup. A lot of people aren't rating any of the Asian teams, but I think out of all the Asian teams this World Cup, I think Japan's going to be the one that's going to shock a few people. I think they've got a lot of quality. You touched on Minamo. You've got the player that plays at Brighton as well. He's looked quality this season as well. So I think they've got a bit of quality. So yeah, stop the presses, mate. We've got a hot take in this podcast, and it's going to be Japan finishing on top.
Big call there from Q with Japan in top. But we've both gone for, our shock being we don't think Germany will qualify. Dan Dan's obviously he's gone for Spain and Germany himself. So we'll see what happens in that one. That is Group B. Let's go to Group F. I'm really excited for this group. We've got Belgium in there, Canada in there, which really excites me seeing them in this World Cup. Morocco, another team, conditions might suit them as well. You've got Croatia in there, another side that, they always do really well in World Cups, made the final in 2018, finished third in 1998 as well. I'm backing Belgium to win this group. I think they'll have the quality. Still got a good squad. Probably aging a little bit in defence. The likes of Odegaard, Vertonghen. There's no company anymore. Defence probably isn't quite what it was. Eden Hazard as well. Hasn't been the same Eden Hazard that we'd seen, in his Chelsea days. But there's still De Bruyne in there. There's still lots of quality in this Belgium side. So I'm backing them to finish first. I always usually like to pick Croatia sort of in that first or second spot as well. But I did say Canada were going to be my dark horses in this tournament. But I'm not going to put them as dark horses necessarily to qualify. It's more so that I think Canada will put on a good display and they'll win at least one game and put on a bit of a show. I do like what I see from Canada, but I'm going to back Belgium first and Croatia in second in this one. Obviously, Croatia's still got the likes of Luka Modric in there, Ivan Perisic, and they seem to always put it on and turn it on in the World Cup. So, Dan, what are you thinking on Group F?
Group F, mate, it's another one. It's another group of death. Like, some of these groups are unbelievable because of the three teams that have just happened to land in the pot. The other one's Group H, which I'm sure we'll get to in a bit, those four teams can go through. So Group F, I'm backing Belgium. I think they go through. I think Belgium go through. And I'm going to have to say Croatia, simply due to his history and historical reasons. I think Croatia, you've got being led by Luka Modric, obviously Ivan Perisic is going close for a Ballon d'Or with the Spurs. He's now playing striker, left wing, left back, right back, centre mid, holding mid for Spurs. He's just everywhere. So, I think he can probably have an unbelievable World Cup as well. So Croatia. Also, I'm half Croatian, so I have to back Croatia.
Well, there you go.
Well, I can't. My other half is Italy, so we just won't talk about that.
Yeah.
Belgium, I think, just have too many good players, too many technical players. Like, if you run through their list in terms of left backs, right backs, centre backs, holding mids, midfielders, I agree with you 100% about Eden Hazard. But then you've got Mertens, Torgan Hazard. There's Lukaku there. There is who else they got up front? Yeah,
one of the best keepers in the world in goal as well.
Carrasco, Courtois in goals. Exactly. So Belgium is just loaded with talents, loaded. And I'll probably miss some there as well. So if there's any Belgians watching this pod, when it comes out, please don't be angry, all right? Please don't be upset. Just list their names in the comments and I'll 100% agree with you because I love Belgian football. So I'm saying Belgium and Croatia to go through. Canada, Alphonso Davies to do some madness, but not enough to get through. And Morocco, again, very similar to like a Tunisia, where they have those French Moroccan players, much like Algeria as well, where they've got the French Algerians. Very, very skillful players, amazing football. I would love to see a Morocco that we did in 1998.
Hadji.
Mate, Mustafa Hadji. And when Coventry signed him, just unbelievable. Like, imagine if Coventry just signed people like that now. It would be unbelievable. So, those kinds of things don't happen anymore. But that was really cool. Like, back in the days when we were watching like 90s Premier League. It would be really nice if Morocco had that kind of World Cup. I don't really see it happening, but it's crazy group. I'm going to stop talking because I could talk about these four teams like all night. So I'm just going to say Belgium and Croatia are going through. 1 and 2, I'm not sure.
Good stuff. And if we've got to get it. We've got to get you first. Go on. If you had to back someone for first, who would it be?
Oh, I'll go Croatia. He's
gone Croatia. Yeah. Okay. All right. So he's gone Croatia as his first. If he had to pick, and then Belgium second. So Quentin, let's get your thoughts. Who's winning this group? Who's coming in second? What are your thoughts?
I think outside of Belgium, I think this is going to be a tight group. I think Belgium have got enough quality to win this. I think they will probably have this group locked up after 2 games, in my opinion. No disrespect to the other countries, but I think Belgium have just got a lot of quality. But I actually think Canada are going to finish second in what will be a tight race with Croatia in this group. I'm excited to see Jonathan David up top there. He's had an outstanding season. So I think that with the likes of Davies as well, I think this is going to be a World Cup where they could shock a few teams, and I think they could shock enough to get through to the round of 16. I don't think they're going to make it any further past the round of 16, but I think they could really make a good go at this group, and I think they could get through just. I think it's going to be more like a goal difference type thing with Croatia.
No, good stuff. And I really like the faith in Canada. So I picked them as my dark horses to put on a bit of a show, surprise a lot of people. Some really good footballers coming through. Jonathan David, you mentioned, very talented player. Alphonso Davies is obviously the star man for them that we all know. But let's go to Group G. We've got Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. Cameroon are giving us some wonderful memories down the years in World Cups. But as have Brazil, they've obviously won it 5 times, the most out of any nation. You've got Serbia in there too. Got the likes of Mitrovic in there, who's having a really good season at Fulham. And then Switzerland, who I've seen a few people pick as their dark horses for this tournament, which is interesting. For me, I think Group G will be won by Brazil. I think they're one of the standout teams for this World Cup. They should be winning this group. I think they'll win it comfortably. I can see them getting 9 points or 7 to 9 points. If they're already qualified by the 3rd game, they might change up some players. I can see them at least not losing the game. So Brazil for me in first. Second is a tough one. I'm probably going to I might back Switzerland. I do like Serbia. I like some of their players. But something seems to always go a little bit wrong when Serbia get into these tournaments. I don't know if there's a bit of hot-headedness to some of their squad and their players, and it's just something just kind of doesn't quite click when they get some of these World Cups. Switzerland, I think, will just edge them into second. But it's a tricky one to pick. It's a tricky one to pick second, but Brazil first, Switzerland second for me. Dan, what are your thoughts on Group G?
Brazil first, Serbia second. I think Serbia go through simply because of the Euro was very, very recent. Yeah, it was only a year ago, and they lost to Scotland, of all teams. I love Scotland. I support Scotland. I love watching Scotland, but I believed Serbia was going to win that and go through the Euro. I think they're going to learn their lessons from this.
Yeah, that's right.
I think they have enough strong players, especially down the spine of their team. You got to think they've got Mitrovic as well. Mitrovic is in good form. I think it's Milinkovic-Savic as well, who's
good player from Lazio.
Playing very well as well this season. So, I think Serbia go through this time. And interestingly, I think Brazil played Serbia and Switzerland last World Cup as well. It was a very similar group in 2018. So, and I think it might have been Switzerland who went through. This time, I think it's going to be Serbia.
Good stuff there from Dan. He's predicting Brazil and Serbia. Quentin, what are your thoughts on this one? Who's going to win this one and who will come out in second?
Yeah, I think Brazil will get the 9 points. I think they win every game. I think they're just going to dominate teams, to be honest. They've got that much quality. I mean, they'll have a chance to rest players against the likes of Cameroon, and they're still going to get a good result. But I think second place is going to come down to a bit of a face-off between 2 strikers. So for Switzerland, you got Embolo, and then you've got, for Serbia, Mitrovic. So whatever player has the better tournament, I think we'll see that team go through. So I think Embolo has been incredible this year. Even in the internationals, he's played really well. So I think if he gets off to a good start in this tournament, and he's looking like he's going to have one of those, it's one of those tournaments where he's going to score goals and, create a lot of chances, I think Switzerland will go through. But I think if Mitrovic does what he's seen in the Premier League this season, where he can just easily score 3-4 goals, I think Serbia can go through. So I think it's going to come down to those 2 players for me who get second place in what will be a tight sort of battle between those 2 teams.
No, good stuff. And quick one before we finish Group G. Dan and Q, do you think, or Dan first, do you think Brazil will get 3 wins from 3?
It's always an interesting one. Look, if Brazil are going to win this, they go through undefeated. I think it's going to be 9 points, and then they'll just win all the rest of the way through. Because if you look historically, I think when they won 2002, 94, and I'm not sure about Pele and his 1,000 goals, but I think 2002 and 94 they went through undefeated. So I think that's going to be I think even in 1970 they went through undefeated. So I think it's going to be a very similar case.
And Q, are you back in Brazil to win all 3 games, or do you think they might drop one?
I think they'll win all 3. I think the first fixture against Serbia might be a bit tough because we've seen in previous World Cups, Brazil sometimes start a little bit slow in the first game. But I think their quality is just ridiculous, and I could see them, having a good start to the tournament. And I'm not going to reveal my winners of the tournament, but I think that they're a good side.
I agree, and I think the first games of this tournament are going to be very interesting because you've got, for example, England versus Iran on the Monday. We've only just finished the Premier League a couple of days ago, so there's literally 2 or 3 days. The teams meet up, they get to Qatar, they train for 2 or 3 days, and bang, they play their first match. And this is the same, for every nation where they got players in the European leagues. It's like, here's the tournament, bingo, there you go. So that could throw up a few banana skins in some of these results.
I just went ahead and looked. Brazil at the FIFA World Cup, when they won it in 58, 6 wins, 1 draw. 62, 6 wins, 1 draw. Champions in 70, 6 from 6. No draws, no loss. Champions in 94, 5 wins, 2 draws. And champions 2002, 7 wins. So, in 94, every time they've played a World Cup and won it, they've never lost.
Big stats there from Dan, and he is back in Brazil to go unbeaten in the group, but we're not going to go through our winners just yet. So we will go through our winners of the tournament soon, but some big Brazil stats there. Let's go to Group H, our final group. Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and Korea Republic. We obviously spoke about Messi earlier on, potentially his last World Cup. Also, Group G, it could potentially be Neymar's last World Cup. You just never know with Neymar. He's probably got an extra one in him, though. But we've got Cristiano Ronaldo. He's been very controversial in the last week with some of his comments with Man United. But this is the World Cup. This is Portugal. I'm backing him and Portugal to finish first of this group. Very strong squad. Good team. So I'm going to back them in first. I'm going to pick Uruguay for second. Lots of talented players. Really liking Darwin Núñez in there at the moment. Bentancur in midfield. Did Luis Suarez get picked for this World Cup as well? Is this going to potentially be his last World Cup?
Yeah, Suarez. I believe Suarez is in. Suarez is in as well. Uruguay made that really nice announcement video. I don't know if you've seen it. If you hop onto Twitter and go and have a look at Uruguay's squad announcement video for the World Cup, and Suarez's name is in there.
Awesome. So it's going to be good to see Suarez in there. The Uruguay-Portugal game with Ronaldo and Suarez up against each other is going to be really exciting. I'm going to back those 2 teams. Ghana, good side. African sides always, produce some good football, and they spring up a bit of a surprise. In Korea, obviously got my man Son in there from Spurs. He does have a fractured cheekbone, so we'll see how he goes from that. Hasn't been on the best of form for Spurs, but I really want him to do it for Korea in this, and hopefully he can get them through, but I'm not going to back them. I'm backing Portugal first, Uruguay second. That's my tips. I think Ronaldo will have enough to get Portugal out of the group, and Suarez and Núñez and Bentancur will pull the strings for Uruguay. So that is my Group H predictions. Dan, what are your thoughts on this group?
I think, Portugal and Uruguay to go through. This was my group of death, Group H, just because I think South Korea are doing fantastically. Obviously with Ronaldo, he produced last World Cup as well. I think he put the nail in the coffin of the Germans last World Cup. He knocked
Germany
them out.
Went out in the group, didn't they, of 2018? Okay.
And it was just a shame because I think they finished third because of that. Like they didn't actually qualify to the round of 16 because I remember him in tears after the match, and yeah, they had a fantastic match, which was a shame for Korea, but I think similar is going to happen this time. I just see with Portugal, Ronaldo in the state that he is for all the things that people can call him, he's a serial winner. He's a champion, and one thing he doesn't like being told is that he's not good at something. So he's coming to this World Cup with a lot to prove, a lot to play for. If he can stay injury free, I think he's going to be unbelievable. And then you just think about the other players that are around him, Bernardo Silva, etc., etc., etc. You can go on and on. So, obviously Cancelo as well. The Portugal are just too strong, I think. And then second will be Uruguay. They've got an unbelievable attack. Uruguay's list, the forwards are Suarez, Nunes, Cavani, and Maxi Gomez. Midfielders, Valverde, Bentancur.
Valverde's Uruguayan, isn't he? I always forget that Valverde's Uruguayan.
Yeah, from Real Madrid, which he's been unbelievable, by the way. Diego Godin is going as
he's
part of the
50 as well.
Yeah, Godin, I think he's played about 8 World Cups. That Muslera is in goals as well still. So there's a lot of Sebastian Coates. There's a lot of players here that were actually part of that 2010 World Cup side that made the great run to the semi-finals with.
Don't tell me Diego Forlan's going to get
Diego Forlan. Like, they could bring him on, couldn't they? Just for a little cameo would be nice. I love Forlan. What a player. So yeah, look, I will stop talking again, but I'm going to say Portugal and Uruguay.
Big stuff. And Dan obviously makes some great points about Uruguay, and he talks about all the good players Uruguay have. And Valverde is someone, him and Pedri are two midfielders that really excite me in this World Cup. There's a third midfielder who does excite me in this World Cup, but he's going to be in my 3 players to watch, who I'll bring up shortly. Let's get Q's thoughts on the final group, Group H. What are you thinking, mate?
I think Uruguay are going to finish on top in this group. I think Dan
ahead of your man Ronaldo. No way. You didn't just say that.
Yeah, Portugal sometimes they create so many chances, but they struggle to score goals sometimes. So I think Uruguay, I think they're going to score lots of goals, and I think Ghana. I don't like Ghana this World Cup. I've always loved picking an African side to follow the World Cups, but I think Ghana I think that they could be the team that could get a few goals scored against them. The same with Korea. I think that they will concede a few goals as well. So I think Uruguay have, I guess, a lot more strike power in form. I think Darwin Núñez, this could be his tournament to do a bit of, flip the bird to the haters, because people are, saying that he's a flop and he hasn't had a good start to his Liverpool career. But, when you look at statistics, he's actually, he's brilliant. In form. So, yeah, I think Uruguay to top the group, Portugal to come second. I think both sides will go through comfortably in this group. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be tight. Like, I could see Portugal definitely finishing first, but for me, Uruguay, I think a lot of their players, I think Kudus, if that's how you pronounce his name, from Ajax, he's been incredible in the Champions League this year. So, yeah, I just think they've got players in a lot of form there.
No, good stuff. And Uruguay do have a very, very strong squad. I was tempted to change my top 2, but I am going to keep Portugal first and Uruguay second. So what we'll do, we're going to move on to the next part of the pod shortly. And we're not going to go through the fixtures on this pod. That's going to be on Fridays. Friday's podcast is going to be World Cup fantasy. And then we're going to run through each fixture on Friday's pod with our score prediction, our favourite fantasy player from each one. That was the group fixture. And as you can see there with Dan's pen, this is the Qatar 2022 World Cup, not the 2002 World Cup that I mentioned at the start of the pod. I was stuck in time on that one. But what I want to do before we stop sharing the screen here, I just want to get quick thoughts on your one team that you think is going to be, go under the radar, get out the groups and not necessarily going to win the tournament, but, people might not think they'll do well and you think they'll go through. And then one team that you think will completely flop. So I'll start with mine. The team I think that will struggle, I'm gonna say Germany. I don't know why. I just get this feeling they didn't do so well in 2018. I feel like there's probably still going to be a bit of a hangover without Joachim Löw. So Germany for me from the big side. I know a lot of people probably want to say the French. I'm going to go with the Germans from the big nations. And then in terms of the surprise, I already sort of said I just want Canada to do something. I'm not really sure why. So I'm going to pick Canada as kind of my dark horse. That's someone a bit different. Dan, who's the team you think from, the bigger nations that isn't going to show up at this World Cup? And then who's your dark horse?
I think the ones in risk are probably France and Germany most, or maybe the Netherlands traditionally. I'll go with. Look, I know I said that they'll go through second, but I also said it could be Japan as well. So I'll go through. I'll go with Germany to possibly flop, and then my dark horse is, I think everyone's dark horse, but no one's talking about them. But they're always there, and like we said, we've got a lot of pedigree of world-class players, and that is Belgium.
No, I love that. So we've got two. I don't think Germany are going to do so well, but Dan is tipping Belgium to go far. Q, who's the big side that you think is going to flop in this tournament, and then who is your dark horse?
I'm going to make it a trio and go Germany. I think
they'll win it now.
Yeah, so I think that they're at the stage where their good players are getting older, and yeah, I just think that they're sort of in that rebuild stage where they'll still be obviously quality and competitive at this World Cup, but I think that they definitely could miss out on that group. And are you picking a dark horse to win it, or just a dark horse who are going to surprise?
It could be a dark horse you think might go really far, or just a dark horse you think everyone's going to be surprised with it. Even if they win a game, so you can pick Australia.
It can be just a light brown horse. It can be like a Brumby.
Well, I might pick an exacta here, so I'm going to go Japan. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people at this World Cup. I think that they've got a lot of quality in their side, and sometimes I think a lot of people are in the European, South American bubble, and they think that football doesn't exist outside of those two continents. So, as we've seen in a couple of pundits are saying that they think that all the Asia teams are going to suffer at this World Cup. So I think Japan are going to surprise a few. And I actually think Netherlands are going to go close to making the Final Four. I think they can make a nice little run in this World Cup.
No, I love that. And obviously with the Netherlands, historically have always been a powerhouse in the World Cup. Obviously last sort of, 2 World Cups. I don't think they qualified in 2018, 2014. They may have did they finish third or make the semis? Brazil, and then it was 2010 they got to the final.
It was when we played them in the group. I think they made it. Yeah,
2014. That's right. And Tim Cahill scored that outrageous volley between Australia and Netherlands. But that is our
goal of the tournament, though.
Wasn't good enough to win goal of the tournament, indeed. But look, that is our group predictions, first and second, our dark horses, and our team that we think is one to that might flop from the big side. So that is that's the groups. As I mentioned, we will go through the fixtures when we do the World Cup podcast on Friday. So now let's go into our next section, and what we're going to do now is we're just going to go from some players to watch. So 3 players to watch each. So these can be players that are going under the radar, players that are established that you think are just going to come in and have a brilliant tournament. So have a think. Your 3 players. I'll start with mine. So I'm going to go number 1, my up and coming star. Look, I would have said Pedri and Valverde. Like going through those groups, I really want to say Valverde now, but I'm going to pick Jude Bellingham. He is my, he's 19 years old, plays for Dortmund. Has been brilliant in the Champions League this season. I think this is going to be the World Cup where he does show everyone on a world stage how good he is. I know a lot of people know how good he is, obviously in England and in Germany anyway, and for those that watch the Champions League. But I'm going to go Jude Bellingham as my as one of them. Then my second one, who I think a player who's going to have a really good World Cup, and I might be taking this player off both of you and potentially Dan, it's going to be Neymar. And the reason, I know it sounds like an obvious pick, but I'm sort of more talking about Neymar from the perspective of 2014, phenomenal World Cup, but got injured in just before the semi-final. 2018, obviously Brazil didn't probably do as well as we expected. So for me, this is the World Cup where I think he will come out, and potentially take Brazil all the way and just show everyone, we all know how good he is, but for some reason, Neymar seems to have some critics out there that probably don't quite understand how good he is. And I think they will by the end of this World Cup. So Neymar is in there for me. And then my third one, I'm going to go with the return of Benzema to the French squad. Obviously, he wasn't part of the winning squad in 2018. He's missed a few tournaments for them now, but this is the return of Karim Benzema. And I think he will come in with his tail up, and I think he will score quite a few goals in this. So they are my three players that I'm backing to have a really good World Cup and set the world stage alight. Dan, let's hear your three players.
All right. My surprise packet of the tournament, he's 28 years old. I've spoken a bit about him on Twitter, and it is Arrascaeta, as we'd probably say it, but Arrascaeta, as they say in Brazil, plays for Flamengo. And he was at the 2018 World Cup as well for Uruguay. But he's kind of just gone under the radar. And recently, his performances for Flamengo have led him to be, I think, player of the season in the Brazilian league. And also Flamengo have followed that up with cup wins and league wins, etc. So I think he's going to be the like breakout player, or that player that surprises people this tournament. I think it's Arrascaeta from Uruguay. My second player, or the young player that I think is going to do something amazing, I think this is his first selection for Brazil. He is also a striker for Flamengo, and his performances for Flamengo have caused, or there was a lot of like outcry for Tete to select him, and it's Pedro. So there is obviously a lot of good strikers, good attackers with Brazil. Whether he gets minutes or not, they're talking about him and Richarlison at the moment playing as a number 9. But this guy is tall. He can score goals with his head. He can score scissor kicks. He can score goals with both feet. I think Pedro is going to be that young player that really makes an impression. And then my player of the tournament, or that I think could possibly win Golden Ball and is going to have an unbelievable World Cup and will follow with a Ballon d'Or, is going to be Neymar. I hate Neymar. And I think everyone knows why. I think everyone knows why I say Neymar, so I don't need to explain or elaborate on that. I think Neymar's going to be the man for the tournament.
No, I love it. And if there's anyone on this podcast that would fight for Neymar to the death, it's Dan. Similar to Q with Ronaldo, similar to me probably with Harry Kane. I'll fight his back regardless. Q will fight Ronaldo's back. Dan will fight Neymar's back. But we've both picked Neymar in our three players. Dan's obviously gone with some more South Americans with 2 other picks. So some really good insight there from at D10 Football, Daniel Capolaro. Now, Quentin, FPL Amateurs of Oz, give us your 3 picks, and will Ronaldo be in there is what I want to know.
First, I'll go with the obvious pick, which is Neymar. I think he's going to have one moment this World Cup where people are just going to be speechless and, realize that he's not actually human. He does things that only the extraordinary people of this world can do. And I think he's going to have a massive tournament. And, I think if Brazil are going to win it, it's going to be because of Neymar. And he's just going to have a freak tournament. So, yeah, Neymar's going to have one superhuman moment this World Cup where no one's going to be able to explain what just happened. They're just going to go, wow, righto, that's ridiculous. So I think he's going to be a standout for me. I think Cody, is it Gakpo?
Oh, yeah, from Holland,
from Netherlands. He's had an outstanding season, and I've been actually quite interested because United have been linked to him. So I'm kind of hoping they do end up signing him because, he's had 12 assists, 9 goals this season for PSV. I think he's going to be one of those players that people are going to see. I think he could break out, and which is going to lead to a lot of interest in his signing in the next transfer window. And I think Jonathan David from Canada, he's an absolute freak. He's a wonder kid. Some of us that play at Football Manager, he's the shining light out of the young players on Football Manager and in real life. So I'm excited to see what he can do on the toughest stage of all. A lot of people don't realize that this World Cup is the peak. Like if you perform at this World Cup, you're a decent footballer. So I'm interested to see what he's going to do at the top sort of I guess, top quality of football, especially the teams that are in their group as well. I think it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. But yeah, those are the 3 players for me. And just a shout out to Karen Quell. A lot of people don't really know a lot about him. He's just signed for Newcastle United. I think he's going to start the last 2 games. I don't see him starting against France just because he is only young, but he is incredible and such a raw talent. So I think a lot of people, especially Newcastle United supporters, tune into these Socceroos games because you're going to see the potential of this kid. I think he's going to have a bit of a breakout World Cup. Not that we're going to get big results in the World Cup, but I think he's going to do similar to sort of what Arzani done the previous World Cup, where a lot of people are like, oh, who is this kid? So yeah, I think definitely a good standout for me this year.
Good stuff from Q. Good insight there. And obviously that's 3 out of 3 for Neymar. Nice pick in Jonathan David as well. And then he's talking about the new Socceroo that signed for Newcastle United. It's how do you pronounce it again? Karen
Qual, I think it is.
Qual.
I'm known to have a dig name moment. So if anyone doesn't know, Lucas Digne, that plays for Aston Villa, I mispronounced his name on our podcast. So yeah, I'm no stranger to a wrong pronunciation, but I think that's how it's pronounced.
Good stuff. And look, it's going to be interesting to see if he obviously gets the minutes for the Socceroos. My opinion is he should start every single game. But look, let's go on to the Golden Boot now and the tournament winner, which is obviously what everyone's probably going to be who's tuned into this. Obviously, this is a pre-record, so everyone that then tunes into this live afterwards is probably thinking, who are they picking as their winners and their Golden Boots? And this is that time. But for me, obviously, we know who won the 2018 Golden Boot. He's on the back of this shirt I'm wearing. It's Harry Kane. I'm backing him again. I'm just going to always back Harry Kane when it comes to Golden Boots because he's won so many of them. And I'll back him, especially with VAR. You get a lot of pens. Kane takes pens. He scores a lot of pens. So, I'll back Kane. But I'll back Kane. Harry Kane's a Golden Boot for me again. I think he'll get his second one. Not the first England player to win a Golden Boot. Obviously, Gary Lineker has also won a World Cup Golden Boot for England. So this will be the third Englishman to win, or the third time an Englishman's won a Golden Boot, unless maybe one of them won it in 1966 when England won it. I'm actually not too sure. Maybe they did. But I know Kane and Gary Lineker have both won it. So I'm going to back my man Kane as my Golden Boot. Dan, who is your Golden Boot going to be for this one? I'm assuming it might be Neymar because you did kind of mention Golden Ball for Neymar. So maybe you think Golden Boot as well?
No, I don't think he's going to have the Golden Boot because I think he's going to be a bit more of a playmaker role. But
okay,
he'll get the Golden Ball much like Luka Modric did in the previous World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
But Golden Boot, if Neymar has the tournament we're all predicting, it'll be Richarlison.
2 out of 2 Spurs players so far. I'm not complaining about that. Wow,
that's it.
Wow.
No, my next pick was Heung-min Son, but I don't think
that's 3 Spurs players.
I don't think I get out of the group. No, I'm being focused. No, I think it's going to be Richarlison.
Wow.
Simply because I don't see Neymar playing in those super forward positions that we've seen in previous World Cups. I think he's going to play a little bit deeper, much like he does PSG. He's going to dictate the play. His playmaking ability, his chance creation is second to none in the world at the minute. So that's why I believe it's going to be Richarlison and he'll get the Golden Ball. And are we talking about winners now or we're not? No?
Next. That'll be next.
Okay. I nearly ruined your whole pod.
There you go. Dan has gone with his Golden Boots, very Spurs themed with Richarlison
R9
in there, which I like to see. R9. Look, if R9 Richarlison was to win the Golden Boot, I'll be very, very happy with that from a Tottenham perspective. Obviously, I've backed my man Harry Kane though. Quentin, what are your thoughts, mate? Who are you going? Who's your pick?
I thought we were going to have to call Renee in to get a paperweight on you, mate, because you're flying in a cloud 9 with all that Spursy talk. I'm going to go with Neymar. I think Neymar is going to have one of those tournaments where single-handedly he's going to get this World Cup for Brazil. So I think he's a good shout and a bit of a dark horse for Golden Boot. I'm going to go Darwin Núñez from Uruguay.
It's a good shout. was a good shout. I think was it Diego Forlan? Did he win it in 2010? It was Diego Forlan that won it in 2010 with Uruguay.
Diego Forlan got
Yeah, I think
the
so.
golden ball. Diego Forlan got
golden
the
ball.
player of the tournament.
That's right, in 2010.
Because they never win both. They never win both.
No, that's true. I just look at it and think when we went through that Uruguay squad and the group they've got, you got thing with Golden Boot. I always look at it and think the group. If there's a favourable group, there's times where they can get doubles, a treble, a hat trick, and I like England's group. I do like that Uruguay group, so I can definitely see that. But then Brazil's group looks good for Brazil as well. So obviously we've all gone for our golden boots. I've gone for Harry Kane. Dan's gone for Richarlison, and Quentin is going for Neymar as his golden boot. So now let's go on to our winners. Who do we think is going to win the World Cup 2022 in Qatar, the FIFA World Cup? Look, I'm going to say who I've backed for over 12 months now, ever since they won the Copa America. So I'm going to back Argentina. I think Messi's going to come out. He's going to win it. He's going to win the World Cup. This is his time to win the World Cup. Obviously, they didn't win it in 2014. They lost in the final to Germany. Just got there's something about Argentina's team that I like. They've prepared very well for this tournament. They managed to get most of their players, not all of them, because some of them did play on the last week of the European season, but they had a number of players that pulled out of the last week of the season, of the regular season, from the squads early and linked up with Argentina a lot earlier than some of these other squads have done, which I found quite interesting. And I just got a feeling I like something about this Argentina team. I like, which obviously maybe as an Englishman is quite rare because there has always been that football rivalry between England and Argentina, as we know. But don't know, there's just something about Argentina I like for this tournament. So I'm backing them to win the final, potentially paired up with Brazil or maybe even Portugal in the final. I think everyone's dreaming of an Argentina-Brazil or an Argentina-Portugal with Messi and Ronaldo in the final is kind of the, will it complete football if that was to happen? But we will see. I'm back in Argentina. Let's go to at D10 Football. Daniel Capellaro, who are you backing to win this World Cup?
Brazil. We're going to do the number 6.
Number 6.
Easy.
Done?
Yeah. The hexa, as they're calling it. Yeah, Brazil to win it. I think just in terms of their qualification, the players, everyone's coming in very injury-free. I mean, if you look at the previous World Cups, there's always been Neymar's hurt this, Neymar's done that. It's been a lot around. Same in the 2014 when he actually hurt his back in the World Cup. I just think now is the time. And I believe he's 30 years old this year because he's 92 born, so he'd be 30. So he's peak for winning a World Cup. I think it's Brazil's time, and he's got a lot of good help around him as well. Like, I mean, you have a look at that squad, attack, midfield. The people are saying something about their defense, but that's because they can't say anything about the midfield or attack. So you've got to say something about something, And they haven't really got. Well, they are taking Dani Alves, but I'm not sure if he's going to start. But they haven't really got that, like, Roberto Carlos, Marcelo, those left and right backs, or Cafu kind of character in the team. Well, I don't think it's going to matter. I think Brazil is a team. And as you said there, was you were pairing them with other nations. I think the only other nation that I see that could blitz this World Cup is Argentina, for similar reasons.
No, big stuff there from Dan, and he obviously mentions the Brazil squad, how strong it is, and also to add, they've probably got the 2 best goalkeepers, pairing in the tournament with Edison and Alisson. So yeah, Brazil.
When I was in Qatar at the end of April, I was there with Billy Wingrove, and he did a little social media thing saying who's going to win the World Cup, and I didn't even hesitate. I was the fastest. They ask people to go around and go, who's going to win the World Cup? And I just went Brazil. And he's like, well, really? Was that quick? And I was like, yeah, 100%. I thought it was going to be Brazil all the way through. So I will stick with Brazil.
I love that. And I think that I'm not sure if it's true, but Brazil, I don't think they've ever gone more than 4 World Cups without winning one. Maybe, and from when they won from the gap between the first World Cup to maybe when they won their first one, but I believe they've never gone more than 4 tournaments without winning a World Cup. So this, if they weren't to win this World Cup, it would be 5 World Cups without a win. So surely this means Brazil are due another World Cup. But Quentin, who are you backing? Is there someone different? Are you Argentina, Brazil? Who are you thinking? Or are you thinking maybe Europe, Asia?
I mean, if someone outside of the Socceroos were to win it, I'd probably go Brazil. No, but in all seriousness, I think Brazil win this World Cup. And, I think that their quality, a lot of people are saying about the defense, like Dan said, but who cares? They're going to be scoring 7 goals a game, so they concede 3 if they want to, but they're going to be scoring goals for fun. So I don't think it's going to matter too much. I think Bruno Guimaraes is going to be a crucial player for Brazil this World Cup. I think him and Neymar are going to be like the Bash brothers were for the Mighty Ducks and just absolutely taking souls with their razzle. I think, I think Brazil
Guimaraes,
this World Cup.
Casemiro, Paqueta, Neymar, and then whatever happens ahead below that, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, like the players they have are in form, so it's different to say they're good players. Yeah, they're great players, but they're all in form. Anthony's playing good for United. Bruno Guimaraes good for Newcastle. You got Neymar playing spectacular for PSG. Then you got Paqueta, who's looked really good for West Ham. And then you got Richarlison, and on his day, he can bang goals in too. So it's unfair, and I really wish that they did like a draft, like an NFL draft, and Australia got a couple of these South American players, give them a citizenship. It's all fair. But I think definitely Brazil have too much quality, I think, for this World Cup.
I hope we see the ball come to Richarlison. He does 3 or 4 juggles, then pass it to Anthony. He does like a spin, and then pass it to someone else. I would love to see it.
Brilliant. Love that. Absolutely love that from Dan and Quentin there. We've got 2 Brazil winners. I'm going to stick with Argentina. But obviously Brazil, I still think could go all the way to the final, and Messi hopefully wins his first World Cup and ends his Argentina career on a high. But look, that's going to wrap up the podcast. Obviously, I hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks everyone that's tuned in. Just before I end it, you can see at the bottom of the screen, World Cup Fantasy is live. Head to the FIFA website, FIFA.com, click Fantasy League. You can find it on there. Download the FIFA Plus app. You can download that app and begin your team. Dan is rubbing his hands because he's waiting for this one. Q's waiting for this one. We're going to do a podcast on Friday. We should all be on there as well. So what we're going to do on that one, we're going to go through our teams, pick some of the best differentials, the captains. We're going to go through every fixture in round 1 and all the players to go for. So if you want to join the mini league, you can see a code at the bottom. It's QV9XTNCZ. Quentin will also have a separate mini league as well. Q, you're going to have a separate mini league running for the FPL Amateurs of Oz?
I'll get a league up and running this week, and I'll plug it on all my socials. But yeah, definitely join Matt's league. It's going to be, it'd be nice to take down both these fellas on the podcast. So yeah, that should be your aim if you're joining the league.
Good stuff. And look, thanks for joining the pod, Dan at D10 Football, Quentin at FPL Amateurs of Oz. You can find both of them on Twitter and Instagram. Their handles are on the screen. So if you are watching this on your mobile phone, give it a screenshot, and then you can find them both on social media. Myself as well at FPLAmatday. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and get your comments in throughout the pod. Who do you think is going to win the tournament? Who's your golden boot? And and who you think is going to qualify through the groups? But any last words, Dan, before we wrap up for the pod?
No. I think we've covered absolutely everything. Got through every group. Talked about the breakout players. Who's going to be the players of the tournament? Top goal scorer. Oh, actually, one thing we didn't talk about. A golden glove. Who's going to get the golden glove? Golden glove's always an important one at the World Cup as well. Look, maybe we can save that for the next pod. But
you know what? Let's do one off the top of our head now. I'm going to quickly pick. I'll pick Martinez from Argentina because I think they're going to win it. So I'll back the winner.
Martinez. I'm going to go with then Who starts? Allison, Redison. I reckon Allison starts. I'll go with Allison.
Allison, cute.
I'm going to go whoever starts in goal for Netherlands. I think defensively they're going to have a good group stage, which means clean sheets. So, yeah.
Huge call from Q. So he's back in Netherlands keeper. Dan's back in whoever Brazil decide to start. He thinks it'll be Allison, and I'm back in Argentina's Martinez. But that wraps up the podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it. The World Cup 2022. I've done that twice now. 2002. I'm living in the past. 2022. We are in a new World Cup. It's the first Winter World Cup. I think it's throwing me off a little bit. So there we go. World Cup 2022 in Qatar. That is the World Cup show, episode 1. Yeah. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And we will see you in the next one on Friday for the World Cup Fantasy podcast. Until then, we will see you then.